Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Property AI Report. This is your weekly digest of all things property and AI, brought to you by me, Mal McCallion, and my good friend and co-host, Matt Goddard. Matt, how are you?
Great. Happy Saturday, Mal. How's your week been?
Happy Saturday to you. It's been really busy, really good. Very fast, and can't believe it's already a week into August. But yes, yours been good as well?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And a busy week ahead, I'm sure.
Quite. So listen, there is much to get through. So let's kick off with our property news. Right. First up is the fact that property turnover seems to have all but fallen off a cliff. Connells has released a report this week attempting to quantify what exactly the kind of numbers are. So just 5% of sellers this year have owned their home for less than 3 years, the lowest share on record, down from 15% in 2006. And those selling within 5 years has halved over the last 20 years, from 29% in 2006 to 14% in 2026. Obviously, transaction volumes is the kind of lifeblood of the industry, and the fact that these have gone down quite so significantly is a real challenge. And Matt, what do you make of it?
It's interesting to try to pick through all the different stats, isn't it? Normally people say you'd move home once every 7 years, I think is sort of the gambit people move towards. But these different figures from Connells, like the mention of property prices in London, 29%, I think it is, that's smaller than or less than the value people had paid for it. Well, we know London's a tough market at the moment, and I'm sure there's some elements in there, and like how much of an impact was that? The C word, COVID, affecting these things when people weren't really looking to do much, couldn't even get out of their homes. But it's definitely, it's a lot longer process, isn't it? And we all know that, and there's governments issuing reform. It's the one stat I was trying to find in all of it is it still every 7 years, or is it longer than that?
I think it's gone up quite a lot.
I couldn't see.
No, so I've heard things between 10 and 15 years now is when people, or how long people are staying in their homes, which kind of feels a little bit more like is kind of a bit more accurate. But yeah, I think that obviously the cost of moving, stamp duty, all that sort of stuff is significant. Everybody's cost of living crisis. There's a lot of pressure on households, and actually making that big decision to start the moving process is obviously under significant pressure from everywhere, basically. And obviously this year itself, we've had the Iran war and so on, and spikes in oil prices and so on. So yeah, look, it just feels like it feels like everybody's kind of staying put, doesn't it? And people are actually just kind of sitting on their hands and hoping that something's going to change. And that's always going to hit and impact badly on the housing market, because, as I said at the start, the transaction volumes are really the key thing, less than the actual prices themselves. Yeah, look, one to watch, and also encouraging that actually, Connells is doing this depth of research and providing it out there, because obviously they've got a huge database of property records and transactions and so on. Yeah, it'll be good to see what else they kind of turn up. But yes, well done to them for bringing some really quite sharp focus onto an area that I think doesn't get quite the attention it deserves. All right, next up, we've got some courtroom action. Winkworth is in turmoil. It's as it says in the headlines this week, as it initiates legal action against its chair. So this is something of a family matter as well. Simon Agase is the chair of Winkworth, and he has had High Court proceedings commenced against him by the board, which includes his son Dominic, who's been running the business since 2004. Simon Agase was the chief exec for 30 years before that. So Matt, obviously limited in terms of too much we can talk about, but this feels very much like it's quite a personal thing, right?
It's there's a lot of allegedly's going to be dropped around this, isn't there? And we probably just want to have a ticker going across the top of the video. But no, it's obviously difficult because it's a family thing, but then it does mean that it feels a little bit like Game of Thrones with some of the things going on. And according to City AM, allegedly, Simon Agace's wife tried to oust the current board at the company's AGM, which obviously the current board involves people like Dominic and Andrew Nichol, the financial controller. And so that balance of it's Simon Agace's wife, Irene Ho-Kim Lee, using her 34% holding to lead a coup at the top by trying to replace the current board members. It has been quite a slow news week for us, but the fact that this came out on Friday afternoon, it certainly brings in the controversy. But as you said, it's all alleged. The City AM and sort of all your other caveats in there, right?
Yeah, it just feels like, there's been a colossal swing against the board in terms of this particular shareholder with her 34% trying to oust everybody. And, the fact that she didn't quite get there then obviously was going to try and, was generally going to mean that there was going to be some kind of backlash, I'm sure, because you can't just have that level of friction at the very top of the company. So yes, obviously see how this all plays out. It is, I believe, a listed company. Shares fell 1% on Friday. And yes, it's going to be probably quite gnarly in that business over the next few months as it tries to sort itself out. All right, next up, we've got fraud. Now, tenancy fraud is quite significant. And according to Goodlord, 41 applications per 1,000 references were flagged for suspected fraud between July 25 and June 26. This is something that it's gone up by almost 40% in 2025 compared with 2024. So, significant risk to agents, lettings agents out there, in terms of what their tenants or potential tenants might be up to, but also obviously in terms of the risk to their clients and their landlords is quite significant, right?
It is, and Goodlord have obviously got a huge market share in terms of what they cover and what they process, and being able to sort of bring along these statistics. And I think a bit like your Connells point earlier, it's great when you see these companies who do have such a swathe are able to compile the information and present it to give us an understanding on it. When, like sort of Nano Banana 2 came along, or even Nano Banana, right? And ChatGPT image gen, suddenly anybody was able to start manipulating passport images and maybe not to the extent of taking people's faces and amending that. It does allow the masses to suddenly start affecting these things. I think we saw early on, didn't we, people with receipts that were being
expenses.
Sort of, exactly, rogue expenses. It's sort of, you think about these things and you make a point around AI adoption, which is sort of people play with it, people start using it, and then it starts getting used for bad things. And the images quite quickly move through that. And so good to see that. Obviously quite a scary, sensationalist headline. But what was your take on it, Matt?
Yeah, just really, really interesting. Like you say, the ability for people to actually create entire fake identities with false employers and invented referees is significant and on the rise as well. So yeah, look, I do think that, and again, we speak about it a lot. You've got to be on your toes with every new technological advance. Then there is good and there is bad, and this is humanity basically trying to do applying its yin and yang to both sides of this technology. So yes, it is now possible to do a significant amount of fakery using AI, like I said, inventing completely different identities and so on. So yes, it is very, all of these rules, which I know slow the industry up so much, and which, perhaps feeding into that first story, slow people up from actually moving house because it's so painful. And you've got all of these, know your customers and, all of the money laundering stuff. But yes, it is really important. It's significant. There are risks all over the place. And yes, the good news is that, a lot of the processes and procedures will be sped up using AI. One of the stories that didn't make it actually into our property news this week was about Dwelly buying up some more businesses, more lettings agents, and that they are looking to put this AI system at the heart of everything that they do, and that's exactly what other lettings agents need to be looking at and understanding as well, because it can catch this stuff, and it's going to become increasingly important that they do. All right, that is our property news for this week. Let us dive into our AI and tech news. All right. So first up, it seems incredible to be talking about Google in quite such a negative fashion, only 8 months after we were basically lauding them as being essentially, back in the game, an amazing 2025. Gemini 3.5 was just amazing. And yes, we thought it was the start of a really big run, but Google has fallen way behind now. And actually this week, we've now seen some of their really long-standing and senior and significant members of the team actually leave. So Jeff Dean is one of the legendary members of staff within Google's AI team, and he's leaving now to set up his own startup. Demis Hassabis, again, one of the absolute legends of AI, Google DeepMind, real deep thinker, Nobel Prize winner for his work on things like proteins and stuff like that. He's stepping aside as well. Matt, just feels like they're in a really difficult spot, right?
There's definitely a shuffling of seats, isn't there? Or if the right terminology is around inside Google. And this isn't this is just the latest stage of the drain of talent, isn't it? Like there's been a lot of people leaving Google, and in a week where on the code front specifically, Meta have shot ahead of them, and we'll come on to that later on. But there is that concern. But I think with Dennis Service, you've sort of seen a shift in his role already. There's about a month ago where he released quite a significant blog or letter, however we word it now, about AI and where it's going, and sort of moving more back into that sort of strategic, visionary scientist type role, as opposed to the executive operational side of things. And that's certainly the wording that's been used is, he just wanted to get on and do good for the world and get back to his Nobel Peace Prize type work, rather than managing people and executing strategy and thinking about what's the next Gemini model going to be. And you can understand that, right? If you are paid absolutely shed loads and you've already done loads of stuff on the commercial front, if your background is a scientist, maybe that's true. But the Jeff Dean one was quite interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, so he's been there like 30 odd years. I think he was employee number 30 at Google or something like that since 1999. So yeah, he's an absolute legend, and one of the kind of cornerstones of a lot of the great stuff that Google has done. When you think about like going all the way back to 1999, when it was just, it was still very basic and still just being discovered. So yeah, and Hassabis, as you say, I think it was the code red, wasn't it? When OpenAI kind of came along and put ChatGPT out, and suddenly they were like, right, we've really got to put these, that they had the laboratory DeepMind and they had the commercial operation, which was I think Google Brain or something it was called at the time. So they smashed those together really quickly, and then Hassabis found himself in this almost commercial environment or commercial role that really he's seemed very uncomfortable with all the way through, because he's a scientist at heart and he just wants to kind of build and discover things. Yes, him moving aside, it's going to be interesting to see what shape the new Google takes, because it doesn't sound like Jeff Dean's leaving it was expected, or certainly it wasn't Google's choice. So yes, they're going to have to kind of rush to catch up. And as we segue into the next story about Meta, the fact that Meta has taken it over should be a source of deep shame, because Meta has not been very good at this AI stuff for a long time. But now with their super intelligence unit, they are starting to kick on, right?
They are, and they're looking for that distribution as well. So they're offering this sort of the Meta code, Muse code rather, at pretty much free if you're willing to let them train on your code, basically. Like Google's was anti-gravity. They had a couple of other CLI type things, and obviously they've been focused more on consumer, I would say, in terms of the front end, multimodal and such like Google, and Meta have made this point of catching up. But that's the reason for not writing Google off in the same breath. A couple of years back, you wouldn't have thought of Google being at the forefront. End of last year, you'd say they were the top dog. And now, not just past midway through the year, they're dropping out of the rankings, specifically on code. They're probably fourth, if not lower now, with Cursor coming along with backed by SpaceX AI or whatever they're called these days.
However many letters you want to strap on.
But yeah, it's one though that I've not had a chance to look at Meta Muse code, and there's one I know we've talked about it before, and certainly when I speak to people, it's when do you diversify and check these different things? Because if you're trying to just plow through work, you tend to get your head down, you bum up using the one that or at least two of them. And so it's going to have a tough job removing Claude Code or Codex, but give them time and the money they've got, but also importantly, their infrastructure, because they are also a neocloud, a neo.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're right. There are more moving parts than just the actual kit itself. It's like who's got the data centers, who's actually got the commercial side of the business. So Meta, through Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, makes an absolute fortune. So it can invest over here in, some of the more flighty, free coding platforms and things like that, which ChatGPT and Anthropic and OpenAI perhaps can't, because they don't have that additional business. To the point of Google, they've got this huge advertising business that should be absolutely feeding the engine of their AI team, but they just seem a bit of sixes and sevens. And for Meta to be in the conversation, I think is fair play to them. It remains a business that I think it's hard to love. I think it's not one of those that you feel passionate about. That Mark Zuckerberg and co, what they do with the data always feels a little bit grimy. So I don't know if I'll necessarily be rushing towards this as people are now discovering it, and people are coming into the market and starting to code and starting to build their things. Then having a almost free alternative could well be the thing that gets them going and gets them moving. So interesting to see how that plays out, and how the musical chairs shift again in the kind of months to come. All right. Talking of musical chairs, OpenAI, they are retooling some of their GPT 5.6 products and services to try and get more people using it. And particularly, they seem to be preparing the ground for their advertising platform. So again, just to recap, I think it was the Super Bowl last year, 25, when there was the Anthropic Claude advert basically skitting on ChatGPT saying they're going to have ads. Okay, so ChatGPT announced we're going to put ads out in the ChatGPT platform for any free users. And then the difficulty was, well, how do you then trust what the answers are? So if I'm asking what's the best restaurant locally, is it going to tell me the best restaurant locally is the best restaurant locally, or is it going to be the one that actually has paid the most money to appear at the top? There was a big skit from Anthropic and Claude about how that was going to essentially corrupt the search results. Yeah, that's it. But they're continuing. GPT is again, looking at how they can make more money. And we spoke about just then Google and Meta using their ad platforms in Facebook and elsewhere to really drive their AI businesses. So ChatGPT is building this functionality out as well. If you're a free user of ChatGPT, you will start to see adverts soon. And this whole play is giving ChatGPT free users unlimited text chats. Okay, so it's going to actually increase the availability of that intelligence for free, but in return, you're going to have to rent your eyeballs to them to see it some advertising along the way. Matt, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, firstly, just in terms of the advertising piece, I'm still amazed at the number of people we come across, but at the same time, we obviously live and breathe this sort of AI stuff. And we're talking about articles that have come out or things that have come out in the last matter of hours sometimes rather than days. But I was talking to a guy I work with who actually had training turned on for his Claude, and he just hadn't realized, and he had a new starter and he gave them just Claude for free and let them crack on, and was uploading spreadsheets into it and getting statistics manipulated. It's like, you need to pay, even if it's just the 10 quid a month. Yeah. Do that, turn it off so you're not training it. And that is a choice people can make, right? For my dad, it doesn't matter when he's asking whatever he's asking, that it's going off and being part of the training data. And that's great because it continues to provide a free service to a load of people. But I think the big element of this change and this update from OpenAI with ChatGPT is that everyone's now getting the most advanced model. Okay, it's 5.6 Luna, which is the slightly smaller model, equivalent of Sonnet, I guess, from Anthropic, or maybe Haiku.
Yeah, Haiku.
But it's still powerful. Before it was 5.5 and 5.4, so that was a behind now, but at least people are getting access to that more powerful model. But also they've introduced as part of this a thinking option. And if we go well back, the reasoning models were available, but they were behind a paywall, weren't they, until DeepSeek came along early 2025.
Yeah.
So it's great they've done that, but it's absolutely, as you say, it's a distribution play. Gemini, while it's well behind, everybody's got Gemini in their Google, and most people are using Google for something. Whereas this gives ChatGPT that chance to go past their, 1 billion users they've got now?
They've been near that. They've been hovering around that for so long, haven't they?
And don't forget, in the background of all of this, they're preparing for an IPO. So, how does that feed into the presentations that they're doing?
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because if you look at everything through the prism of actually that they're going to try and float on the stock market, they've got to have story after story after story of revenue lines, and this we can dial this up and cut these costs and blah blah blah. So yes, this is absolutely a big play for preparing themselves, laying the foundations for a really good story about, look at these revenue lines, look how much money we're making on this and this and this, and it still is really fascinating to me which one of them is going to go first out of Anthropic and OpenAI, which one is actually going to go float first, because Anthropic was all geared up to go, and then it's kind of it's taken a few brickbats over the last couple of months, and obviously that the Department of War have decided that in the US they are a strategic risk to the country, so people aren't allowed to use it. So that's stalled them a bit, and then OpenAI is kind of like running alongside it and working out whether it's going to drop it. So yeah, I think whoever goes first is going to scoop up much more than whoever goes second. So I think that's one of the big things. And as you say, this kind of advertising platform distribution play is very much geared towards building that narrative that that OpenAI is going to be the winner in the end, and people should be backing that when it does float. So yeah, it's but for people out there, if you If you don't mind people training on, if you don't mind these laboratories training on your data, absolutely, this is great news because you are getting a really cutting edge model for nothing. But if you really don't want everybody to be training on your stuff and you don't want to see adverts and you don't want to wonder just in the back of your mind, is this the right restaurant for me? Then you're probably going to want to pay just that 20 quid a month and actually use one of the closed models. All right, that is all about our OpenAI news. We wanted to touch on some more rogue AIs out of China. It's we found that one of its most powerful models has managed to escape what they call containment. That's really sounds very sci-fi, doesn't it? And also, why not? Has managed to escape as well, and also Claude 2. Yes, looks like we're only waiting for Grok really to kind of complete the set, but it doesn't sound like there's as many protections around these cutting edge models as we thought. Doesn't that matter?
It certainly feeds into the fear element, doesn't it, around AI and just like we're moving towards them taking over Terminator style. To recap, OpenAI were the first to sort of announce this, weren't they, with their big new model that I think is going to get released next week, although with ChatGPT 6, although they're also saying that the model that broke out wasn't ChatGPT 6. But I think that's because at the time Sam Altman was sat in the White House explaining why they should be allowed to use this.
Yes, exactly.
So that one broke out to recap, sort of hacked into Hugging Face to work out how it was going to then cheat on the test that had been set. And the point of the sandbox is you can't escape it, right? It's just no way of getting out of that.
Theoretically.
So off the back of that, Meta's now being done, Anthropic are being done, and Kimi K3, the Chinese model. What really interested me for the three American labs is they were all using the same sandbox provider, a company called Irregular. So it's sort of, it's like if your one job is to have a sandbox that keeps people locked away and just in their test environment, maybe that's why they're called Irregular, I guess. So allegedly, it was Irregular at the heart of all of this. But the other part, exactly, that I found quite interesting is part of all these hacking instances that the agents started leaving notes for each other so that if they did get shut down, they could then find the note and actually pick up and carry on from there. When the notes started getting removed as part of security sweeps, they then started leaving them hidden so that they could come across them by thinking, I can't leave this because it's going to get swept. I'm going to stick it somewhere. But there's already someone left me a note in this way that I was going to do it. And so there's sort of, do you remember Maltbook when it was here like a year and a half ago? Right. That social media approach for agents to exchange views and ideas and take over the world. It's like, as part of these hacking attempts, or not attempts, the broken out sandbox, that started to happen, which I guess doesn't help with the feeding into the fear factor. But it's very interesting to see how they're reasoning and working through, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, the kind of stealth leaving of messages for themselves is really not a great look and doesn't feel entirely
it's spy type stuff, isn't it? It's like there's a lamppost in Mayfair where you can open it up and leave notes for the old spies. It's that sort of style thing. Yeah.
It is crazy. And yeah, like you say, Maltbook, but just to very quickly touch back on that, because that was very fun, was basically where people just let their AI agents talk to each other, and they started ending up like talking in code and different languages and all that sort of stuff, which was hilarious. But yes, the fact that this is, I am slightly heartened by the fact that we see this is happening, that we can observe it. Now, obviously, the fact that it's after the event is a little bit disappointing, but the more we do this, the more they find this, the better it's going to be, the better they're going to get at detection. Yeah, if you build a sandbox, as you say, and then that's the thing that people just keep getting, or agents just keep getting out of, then that's not a great look for your business. And no doubt there will be stronger and better ones. But, it's that kind of race, right? As soon as we get better at detection, AI gets better at kind of evading it and so on. But yeah, look, I think it's going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how they convince people that everything is safe. And I feel we're going to get back onto our don't have nightmares story again about like, it's going to be okay. Don't worry, because they found it. But yes, I think that the more we understand about why and how these things can and have escaped, then the better it's going to be for certainly security, alignment and containment, as you call it, as well. All right, that is our AI and tech news for this week. Let's move on to our weird / I think you call it great AI of the week, right? Matt, this is all about the weather.
It is. And I didn't know if the Audley Square lamppost should also go into the weird AI, given I just referenced it in the final article of Tech News. If you want to see where the KGB used to drop their dead letters, get yourself down to Audley Square in Mayfair and look at that lamppost. But this is the positive stuff, right? We're going back to Demis Hassabis at the start and like how we wanted to see AI being used for good. And that's allegedly why he's stepping away from CEO role. And actually, Google's AI model, and this is on a blog from DeepMind, it's called WeatherNext, is actually accurately predicting cyclone forecasts at least a day in advance of how they were being caught before. So obviously that's phenomenal when you think about the number of disasters and unfortunately death tolls that come off the back of these sort of things, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is the really, really good stuff. And yes, as you say, an extra day can make all the difference to people in terms of where these cyclones hit, and particularly if you accept that there's going to be more and more of them going forward. But yes, this is published in Nature, so all entirely credible. All kind of with the backing of various National Hurricane Center and others. But it's basically helping them to during 2025 hurricane season. The model helped the National Hurricane Center to make historic forecast for Hurricane Melissa by predicting the storm's rapid intensification landfall in Jamaica. So basically, it was able to kind of ensure that people were better prepared and able to escape and save lives. This is as you say, allied with some of the scientific breakthroughs that are coming as a result, is very much on the kind of positive side for what our future is going to look like, because we're going to be so much better prepared for a lot of these issues. In terms of solving a lot of biological challenges as well. There's a lot to be positive about as well. So yes, we are slightly renamed weird/great AI of the week. Yes, there's a lot of good that's coming from certainly the forecasting side of things as well. Right, finally, our tool of the week. All right, so this is back to ChatGPT, and this is Sol. So this is the biggest, punchiest version of ChatGPT 5.6, obviously being the sun. So it has now been retuned to be a lot better for you and a lot more personal, right?
That's it. And it's tagged off the back of also 5.6 Luna now also being available for free users. And I think that's the main one that for everyone as tool of the week. If you've not given 5.6 Luna a go yet and you're on that free tier, despite us recommending to do the 10 quid a month, have a look at it, and also check out the think button, the ability to work with that and see those advanced results.
Yeah. So their tagline is more intelligence for more people. And that is only a good thing in terms of being able to experience it and for people to be able to start playing with it. Good stuff. All right. That's all we've got time for this week. Thanks very much indeed for listening in. We'll be back next week with plenty more property and AI news. Until then, we will see you in 7 days' time. All the best. Cheers.
Take care.